In this lesson, we will create a dome light to add some fill light and reflections to the cell using image-based lighting. In the previous lesson, we added two lights to the scene, one on the top right corner and the other one on the bottom left corner. And as you can see, this added a really nice effect and brought up the really nice bump map that we added for the cell membrane. But if we notice, the front part of the cell or the part facing the camera is a bit too dark, and we're losing a lot of detail, especially from the bump map and also from the shader itself. So to fix that, we're going to go ahead and create a dome light just to add some fill light to the scene. Go ahead and click Create, Lights, V-Ray Dome Light. And if you go into the perspective and zoom out a bit, well, this will add a dome light shape to the scene. One thing you have to notice about dome lights, it doesn't matter where it sits in the viewport, so no matter where you put this one, it will cast exactly the same light. Think of it as the skylight, because usually dome lights are used to create a nice skylight effect. Alright, so let's go ahead and go back to the render camera. Let's go ahead and save this for comparison, and let's do a test render. Alright, the first thing you're going to notice is we're going to get this white bar on top of our render. This is exactly the same thing what happened when we created the first rectangular light, and we would see it into the render. So to fix this, just go ahead and select make sure you have the render in the perspective camera, select the dome light, go under the attribute editor, and make sure under options you have invisible checked. This will make sure the render, the light doesn't show into the render. So now if we go ahead and do another test render, alright, that got rid of the top bar. You see the light is still affecting the cell, but we got rid of the top bar, so the light is not visible in the render anymore. One other thing you'll notice is that the top part is more lit than the bottom part, and this is because the dome light is now just a dome light, so it's not affecting the bottom side of the cell. But this is not what I'm looking for. And this might work when you do have a plane and this one sits on top of it, and you get a nice skylight. But I'm going for, because the cell is like floating in mid-air or it's into a liquid, I want the light to be hitting this from all sides. So to make this happen, just go back into the attribute editor and just scroll up, and just make sure you have dome spherical selected. This will make the dome the dome light affect the scene from all directions. Alright, so now let's save this for comparison and do another test render. Alright, now we can see that the light is affecting the entire cell, not only the top part of it. So here is the comparison between the two. But this is not the look that I'm going for. This looks too uniform and just too simple. And I want the light, the dome light or the fill light, to add some nice shapes to this one, and maybe some nice reflection. And to do that, we're going to be used what is called an HDR light, an HDR image, which we're going to link to the dome light to get a nice reflection and nice shapes on the cell. Go ahead and go to HDR Labs, and under the archives, I'll go ahead and download the Arches Pine Tree, and if you scroll down, you're gonna get something called the Milky Way, and we're gonna use this. So this is what we call an image-based lighting, and the guys at HDR Labs have a really amazing archive of images. We have a lot of different environments and a lot of different colors, so make sure you check them out. Alright, so now back into Maya, save this for comparison, go into perspective, select the dome light, and if we scroll down, we'll have something called the texture. To make this happen, we're going to go ahead and just check use dome texture, and now go ahead and click on the checker. This will open up the create render node. Under 2D textures, select file, and where it says image name, just click on the small folder and it will open up the source images. Under Milky Way, click that and select Milky Way small HDR and just click open. Immediately you'll see that this adds the image, the HDR image, to the scene, and as you can see, it's surrounding the image from all sides. So this is a what we call a 360 image, I think, to add like a nice spherical image around our scene. Alright, now let's go ahead and do a test render now. Alright, this got rid of the uniform light that we had before, but this is not a lot different from what we had when we started the lesson. So this is what we start without the dome light, and this is with the dome light. So the difference is not that big. So why are we getting the result that we wanted? So because the intensity of this image is really low. So select the dome light, and under the attribute editor, just make sure you have intensity multiplier set something around 5. And if we go ahead and do another test render now, save this for comparison. Alright, this looks far much better. This is exactly what I was telling you about. This is the difference. This is what we had, and this is with that dome light and with the HDR linked to it. So as you can see, it adds some really nice subtle lights and subtle reflection on the surface of the cell, which makes it more interesting, and we're not losing that detail as we had before. We lost that into these dark areas, and we're getting a really nice detail on the cell membrane. Now for the sake of example, I'm gonna go ahead and just link another HDR image instead of the Milky Way. To do that, just go down to the dome text, click on the small arrow, and the image name, click on the folder, and now I'm going to go ahead and select the Arches Pine Tree Environment.hdr. Click open. You can see it adds a new one here, and do a test render. I'm going to save this for comparison. Do a test render. Alright, make sure when you add a new HDR light, you gotta do a couple of tests, because each HDR light has different intensity settings which work for that HDR image. So for this one, we can see two things. We can see that the light is so different now. We do have like a really nice orange light from the bottom and a nice blue light from the top, because if we look at the HDR image, we can see we have blue from the top and we have orange from the bottom. And now if we go ahead, let's go ahead and tone the intensity down, maybe something around 2.5 or 2, and save this for comparison and do another test render. Alright, this looks far much better. As you can see, it was way too strong. But if we look at this one, and this is the Milky Way HDR, and this is the Pine HDR, I'm going to go ahead and just delete this one in the middle so we can see the difference between the two. So you see, when we use another HDR, the entire light around this and even the effect of the reflection will change the mood of it, and we're going to get a different result. So this is the beauty of HDR images, because it will take the light and the color and the reflection from that image and add it, and we will affect the shaders in our scene. Now if you want to go ahead and let's say you want the orange color to be on the top and the blue color to be on the bottom, if we select the dome light and rotate it, nothing will happen. You see the actual light will move, but the texture just stays in place. Well, to rotate that, we just have to go and select the dome text, click on the arrow, and under place environment texture, here you have a horizontal rotation and a vertical rotation. So if you can see that when we start moving the horizontal, you see the texture starts rotating, and again the same thing happens with the vertical rotation. So just we flip this, and we can get a different result. Alright, so now you can even use a ramp for a dome light color. So you're not only limited to using HDR textures. To do that, just select the dome light and let's go into Hypershade and create a 2D ramp. Make the work area a bit bigger, and on the 2D textures, select ramp, and I'm gonna select the dome light. Middle click and drag the ramp over the dome text. This will add the ramp into the light. Now let's just tweak the ramp a bit. Under interpolation, I'm going to set that to none, just because I want to get a nice edge between these lines, so you can see these colors affecting the scene. All right. Now, if you go ahead and do another test render. All right. So here's the result we get. This doesn't look good, but for the sake of this example, I wanted to show you that here's the blue, because if we go into the ramp now, see the blue light on top, the green in the middle affecting the shader, and the red from the bottom. And think of the possibility, you can go ahead and add multiple colors. You can go ahead and add maybe some waviness to this to get some nice effect, some nice shapes to the reflection, maybe add some noise to it, and so on. So you can get a really nice looking lights affecting the scene without using HDR lights. In the next lesson, we will go ahead and set up the passes for the post work using render elements and tweak some settings in V-Ray to render our final image.